Park had never wanted to be important. He was a simple man with simple dreams. He fixed engines. He made broken things work again. He talked to machines because machines never judged him for being quiet or awkward. Machines just needed care and was good at giving care. He had joined the space fleet because he wanted to see the stars, not to fight, not to lead, just to see. And for 3 years that was exactly what he did. He worked in the engine room of the ship called Horizon's Edge. He ate alone most days. He read old books on his tablet. He was happy. Then the aliens came, and his simple life ended forever. They were tall, so tall that had to look up until his neck hurt. Their skin was silver like the surface of still water. Their eyes were purple, deep and strange, with no white parts at all. They moved like dancers, every step perfect, every gesture planned. They were beautiful, they were terrifying, and they controlled this part of space. Captain called an emergency meeting. Her face was tight with worry as she stood before her crew. She was a small woman, but she had a voice that could cut through steel. Everyone respected her. Everyone was a little afraid of her too. They want to talk, she said. They want to decide if they should let humans travel through their space. If we fail this meeting, we are stuck. No way forward. No way home without going around, and that would take 20 years. The crew murmured. 20 years. Most of them had families waiting back on Earth. Children who would grow old without them. Parents who would die before they returned. They have asked for our finest speaker, Captain continued. Someone who can represent all of humanity. Someone who can convince them we deserve to pass. Was not paying full attention. He was thinking about the engine problem on Deck 7, a small vibration that no one else seemed to notice. He made a mental note to check it after the meeting. Park. He looked up. Everyone was staring at him. He felt his face grow hot. What? He said stupidly. You will be our speaker, Captain said. Me? His voice came out high and strange. Captain, I fix engines. I do not talk to people. I barely talk at all. Our actual diplomats have already offended them. Lieutenant called their art primitive. Officer Han accidentally insulted their food. You are the only senior officer they have not met yet, she sighed deeply. You are our last hope. Wanted to run. He wanted to hide in the engine room and never come out. But Captain was looking at him with desperate eyes, and he could not say no to those eyes. I will try, he whispered. The meeting room was huge. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadow. The walls were covered with carvings that seemed to move when was not looking directly at them. Everything smelled like flowers he did not recognize, sweet and heavy. 12 stood waiting. They wore robes of deep blue and gold. They did not smile, was not sure if they could smile. And then she walked in. Princess of the third house. Had seen beautiful things in his life. He had watched sunsets on 3 different planets. He had seen nebulas that looked like paintings made by gods. He had once fixed an engine just in time to save a ship full of children, and the look of relief on their parents' faces had been beautiful too. But this was different. Princess was tall, even for a. Her silver hair fell past her waist like a waterfall. Her purple eyes glowed softly in the dim light. Her face was sharp and elegant, like someone had carved it from moonlight and given it life. She looked at, and he forgot how to breathe. You are the human speaker. Her voice was cold. Not cruel, just cold, like winter, like space itself. Opened his mouth. His prepared speech was somewhere in his brain. He had practiced it. Simple words about peace and cooperation and mutual respect. Words that Captain had helped him memorize. Those words were gone now. His brain was empty. His mouth was dry. All he could do was stare at the princess and feel his heart beating too fast. Speak human, she commanded. Convince me your species deserves to exist in our space. The silence stretched. 1 second, 2, 3. The other began to shift, their expressions turning hard. Crew members were staring at him with horror. Captain had her hand over her face. This was a disaster. This was the end of everything. And then spoke. "You are so lovely I cannot speak." The words came out soft and honest. He did not plan them. He did not choose them. They just escaped from somewhere deep inside him, from that place where truth lives before the mind can catch it and dress it up in smarter clothes. The chamber went silent, not the uncomfortable silence from before, a different kind of silence, a shocked silence. Princess stared at him. Her purple eyes went wide. Her mouth opened slightly. For just a moment, she looked not like a princess or a politician or a powerful alien. She looked like someone who had just been hit by a wave she did not see coming. The other turned to look at her, then at each other. Whispers began to spread, words in a language did not understand. Captain made a small sound. It might have been a groan, it might have been a prayer, it might have been both. Just stood there, his face burning red, his hands shaking at his sides. He had just told an alien princess she was pretty. In the most important diplomatic moment in human history, he had said something a teenager might say to his first crush. He was going to die, they were all going to die, and it was his fault. Princess finally closed her mouth. She blinked once, twice, 3 times. When she spoke again, her voice was different, still cold but with something underneath, something could not name. "This meeting is over for today," she said. "We will continue tomorrow." She turned and walked out, her silver hair flowing behind her like a flag. The other followed, all of them casting curious looks at as they passed. Captain walked up to slowly. Her face was impossible to read. "What," she said quietly, "was that?" Swallowed hard. "I told you," he said miserably. "I do not talk to people, I only know how to tell the truth." Captain was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just watched their life flash before their eyes and survived. "Well," she said, "at least they did not kill us yet. That is more than I expected." Did not feel comforted. Somewhere on this ship, an alien princess was thinking about what he had said, and tomorrow he would have to face her again. He really should have stayed in the engine room. Princess could not sleep that night. This was strange because she always slept well. She had trained herself over 200 years to control every part of her body and mind. Sleep came when she called it. Hunger waited until she allowed it. Even pain could be pushed aside until a convenient time. But tonight, her mind would not obey her. She lay in her quarters on the diplomatic ship, staring at the ceiling. The room was beautiful, decorated with crystals that glowed softly in the darkness. Everything was perfect and calm and peaceful, except for the voice in her head that kept repeating the same words. "You are so lovely I cannot speak." She had been called beautiful before, many times. Princes from distant systems had written poems about her eyes. Ambassadors had offered fortunes for her hand in marriage. Generals had sworn to conquer worlds in her name. None of it had meant anything. She knew how the game was played. Compliments were weapons. Flattery was a tool. Everyone wanted something from her, and they used pretty words to try to get it. But the human had been different. His face, that was what she could not forget. The complete and total shock on his own face when the words left his mouth. He had not planned to say that. He had not been trying to manipulate her. He had simply looked at her, and the truth had fallen out of him like water spilling from a cup that was too full. It was pathetic. It was foolish. It was everything they were taught to despise. So why did her chest feel warm when she thought about it? Sat up in frustration. She needed answers. She needed to understand this strange human and why his stupid, simple words had affected her so much. She called for Captain. The human captain arrived within the hour. She was clearly tired, with dark circles under her eyes, but she stood straight and spoke clearly. Respected that. Strength was something she understood. "Tell me about your speaker," demanded. "The one called Park." Captain's face showed surprise, then careful thought. What would you like to know, Princess? Everything. Who is he? What is his role? Why was he chosen? The captain laughed softly. It was not a mocking laugh. It sounded tired and honest. Is our engine mechanic. He fixes things. He was chosen because everyone else had already made mistakes and he was the only option left. He is not a trained speaker. He is the opposite of a trained speaker. He cannot lie. He cannot play politics. He speaks only what he thinks and feels, even when it hurts him. Captain paused. Especially when it hurts him. Felt her confusion growing. Then why send him? Surely you knew he would fail. I thought he would. I was wrong. The captain met her eyes directly. Princess, I have known for 3 years. In that time I have never heard him say a single thing he did not mean. When he told you that you were lovely, he meant it. That is just who he is. Humans say such things to strangers. Humans say such things when they are overwhelmed, when something hits us so hard that our brain cannot catch up with our mouth. Captain smiled slightly. We call it being struck speechless. It usually happens when we see something very beautiful or very terrible, sometimes both at once. Dismissed her with a wave, but the words stayed in her mind like stones in a pond. Being struck speechless. The idea that an emotion could be so strong it bypassed all training and control. Among such a thing would be seen as weakness, a failure of discipline. But was it really weakness, or was it something else? The next morning, she summoned Park to her private quarters. He arrived looking like a man walking to his own execution. His uniform was neat, but his hair was messy. His eyes were tired from what she guessed was also a sleepless night. He stood in her doorway and waited, his hands folded in front of him like a child expecting punishment. Come in, said, sit. He sat on the chair across from her. The furniture was too large for humans, so his feet dangled slightly above the floor. It made him look small and young and helpless. I want to understand you, said. Blinked me. Yes, you spoke words yesterday that have never been spoken to me before. Not like that, not with such. She searched for the right word. Honesty. I am sorry, he said immediately. I know it was wrong. I know I should have said something smart and political, but my brain stopped working and my mouth just. I am not angry. He stopped talking, his eyes went wide. You are not. I am confused. Among my people, we are taught to control everything. Our words, our faces, our feelings. To show emotion is to show weakness. To speak truth without thought is to give your enemies a weapon. She leaned forward. You gave me a weapon yesterday. You showed me exactly what you felt. Why would you do such a thing? Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft and thoughtful. Among my people, we have a saying. The heart has reasons that reason does not know. It means that sometimes our feelings are smarter than our thoughts. We feel things before we understand them. And sometimes saying what we feel is more important than saying what is safe. Even if it destroys you. Even then, he smiled sadly. Humans have started wars over feelings. We have also made peace because of feelings. We have written songs and built monuments and crossed oceans all because of things we felt but could not explain. It is our greatest weakness, but I think it is also our greatest strength. Sat back. This was more than she had expected. This simple mechanic, this clumsy speaker, had just given her a window into the human soul. Show me, she said. Show you what? Show me human feelings. You say they are your strength, prove it. Looked uncertain. I do not know how to do that. Then we will learn together. Stood and walked to a console on the wall. I have accessed your ship's cultural database. You will show me human art, human music, human stories. You will explain to me why these things matter. That could take a long time. We have time. The council will not meet for another week. She looked at him with eyes that held a challenge. Unless you are afraid. Something changed in his face, a small spark of determination. I am always afraid, he admitted, but I have never let that stop me before. For the first time in 200 years, Princess felt something she had almost forgotten. Curiosity. Over the next several hours showed her human music, songs that started soft and built to crashing waves of sound, songs that made her chest tight with feelings she could not name. One song, about a man who lost his love to the sea, made her eyes sting in a way they had not stung since she was a child. "Why does this affect me?" she asked, almost angry. "These are not my memories, this is not my loss." "That is what art does," said gently. "It lets us feel things that are not ours. It connects us to strangers across time and space. When you listen to this song, you are feeling what the person who wrote it felt 100 years ago. Their sadness becomes your sadness just for a moment. It is dangerous." "Yes, but it is also beautiful." He looked at her with those honest eyes. "Is that not what life is? Dangerous and beautiful at the same time?" Had no answer, but for the first time in a very long time she wanted to find one. When finally left her quarters, the ship's lights had dimmed for night cycle. He looked exhausted but also strangely peaceful. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked. Nodded. "Same time tomorrow." She watched him walk away, this strange human who had somehow, impossibly, made her feel things she had forgotten she could feel. Perhaps, she thought, there was more to humanity than she had believed. Perhaps there was more to herself, too. The week passed faster than expected. Every day he went to Princess' quarters. Every day they talked. He showed her human films that made her laugh for the first time in decades. He shared poems that made her quiet and thoughtful. He played songs and told stories and answered her endless questions about what it meant to be human. And slowly, something changed between them. Stopped looking at him like he was a strange animal to be studied. She started looking at him like he was a person, someone worth knowing, someone worth listening to. Stopped being afraid of her. Not completely, because she was still a princess with the power to destroy his entire species. But he stopped feeling like he was about to die every time she spoke. On the 5th day, she asked him a question that surprised him. "Do you have someone waiting for you, on your home world?" Shook his head. "No, my parents died when I was young. I have no brothers or sisters, no wife or children," he shrugged. "I have always been alone." "That sounds sad." "Sometimes, but I have learned to be okay with it. I have my work, I have the stars, I have the machines that need me," he smiled. "Machines are simple, they do not lie, they do not leave. If you take care of them, they take care of you." Was quiet for a moment. "I understand that feeling," she said finally. "I have family, but they are not close. Among the relationships are political, even between parents and children. My mother speaks to me once a year on formal occasions. My father has been dead for a century." She looked at her hands. "I have been alone in a room full of people for my entire life." Felt his heart hurt, not for himself but for her. This powerful, beautiful princess had everything in the universe except the one thing that mattered most. Connection. "You are not alone now," he said softly. She looked up at him. Her purple eyes were bright with something he could not read. "No," she agreed. "I suppose I am not." On the 6th day, showed him something in return. "This is poetry," she said, activating a display. Strange symbols filled the air, floating like glowing birds. "It does not translate well into your language, but I want you to hear it." She spoke the words aloud. The sounds were strange and musical, rising and falling like waves. Did not understand a single word, but he felt them. The rhythm was sad and hopeful at the same time, like reaching for something beautiful that keeps slipping away. When she finished, there was silence. "What does it say?" he asked. "It speaks of a star that loved a planet. The star knew that its light would eventually burn the planet to ash, but it could not stop shining. It could not stop loving. So it burned brighter and brighter, giving everything it had until there was nothing left." She paused. "It is a warning, Among my people, it teaches that love is destruction. That feeling too strongly will destroy both the one who loves and the one who is loved. That is a sad way to think. Is it wrong? Thought about it, really thought about it. I do not think so, he admitted. Love can destroy. I have seen it happen. People who love the wrong person, people who love too much and lose themselves. He looked at her. But I have also seen love build things, families, communities, entire civilizations. Humans do terrible things for love, but we also do wonderful things. Then how do you know which it will be? We do not, that is the point, he smiled. We love anyway, even knowing it might destroy us, because the chance of something beautiful is worth the risk of something terrible. Stared at him for a long time. You are a strange species, she said at last. Yes, we are. On the 7th day, the council meeting arrived. Stood in the great chamber again. The same 12 lords watched him with cold eyes. The same carvings moved on the walls. The same heavy smell of unknown flowers filled the air. But this time, Princess stood beside him. The council will now hear arguments, the eldest lord announced. The question is whether humanity shall be granted passage through space. Princess, you have studied these humans. What is your recommendation? Stepped forward. She looked calm and controlled, every bit the royal princess, but could see something in her eyes that was not there before, a warmth, a light. I have studied the humans, she said. I have examined their art, their music, their philosophy. I have spoken with them at length about their values and beliefs. The lords waited. Their faces showed nothing. They are chaotic, continued. They are emotional. They make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. They fall in love with things that might destroy them. They speak truths that hurt themselves. They are, by every standard we hold sacred, deeply flawed. His heart sank. This was it. She was going to condemn them. Everything they had shared meant nothing in the end. But said, and the word hung in the air like a bell, they have something we have lost. The Lord shifted. This was not expected. In 3,000 years of our empire, we have conquered worlds. We have built monuments that will stand forever. We have achieved perfect control over ourselves and our emotions. His voice grew stronger. And in all that time, we have not created a single piece of art that moved me. We have not written a single poem that made me feel anything. We have become so afraid of weakness that we have cut out everything that makes life worth living. You speak of feelings, Lord interrupted. Feelings are dangerous. Yes, they are, but so is emptiness. Turned to face him directly. Tell me, Lord, when was the last time you felt joy? Real joy, not satisfaction at a political victory. When was the last time you laughed so hard your sides hurt? When was the last time you looked at someone and felt your breath stop because they were so beautiful? The Lord had no answer. None of them did. The human mechanic said something to me on the first day we met, continued. He told me I was so lovely he could not speak. It was foolish. It was dangerous. It gave me power over him. She paused. It was also the most honest thing anyone has ever said to me, and I have not been able to forget it. She walked to the center of the chamber. I am not asking you to become like the humans. I am asking you to learn from them. They have kept something alive that we have killed in ourselves. They feel things, real things, and those feelings make them brave in ways we have forgotten how to be. The chamber was silent, could hear his own heartbeat. I vote to grant humanity passage, said, not because they deserve it by our standards, but because our standards may be wrong. The vote took hours. The lords argued and debated. Some were angry, some were thoughtful, some looked at like she had gone insane. In the end, the vote was 7-5, in humanity's favor. Felt his legs go weak. They had done it. Against all odds they had won. Walked back to him. Her face was tired but peaceful. Thank you, whispered. You saved us. No, she said softly. You saved me first. She reached out and touched his hand. Her silver skin was cool and smooth. You reminded me that some things are worth feeling, even if they hurt, even if they are dangerous. Looked at her hand on his, such a small gesture, such a huge meaning. What happens now? He asked. Smiled. It was the first real smile he had ever seen on her face. Now, she said, we find out what else we can teach each other. In the observation deck that night, watched the stars and felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Hoping. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The Empire, the coldest and most logical civilization in known space, had sided with humans, not because of military power, not because of economic value, but because a princess had been moved by a mechanic's clumsy words. Every species with a communication array heard the story, and every species reacted differently. They were confused. They were a race of pure logic, living in massive computing structures that floated between stars. They ran probability calculations for 16 standard days trying to understand how emotional vulnerability could produce a positive diplomatic outcome. The math did not work. The outcome was impossible, and yet it had happened. Their Central Processing Council released a statement. It was the closest thing to confusion their species had ever expressed. The statement simply said, further data required. Human behavior remains outside predictable parameters. They were angry. They were warriors bred for combat over 10,000 generations. Their entire culture was built on strength, honor, and the glory of battle. Weakness was death. Emotion was weakness. When their battle lord heard the story, he laughed. These soft creatures won through crying and pretty words. Pathetic. When we meet them, we will show them what real power looks like. His chance came 3 months later. A human colony ship had engine trouble near space. The ship carried 2,000 civilians, including many children. They sent out a distress signal, and Battlelord answered it. He arrived expecting to find weaklings, soft, fragile creatures who would beg for mercy. He was already planning how to display their defeat to the other lords. What he found instead was a small girl standing in the airlock. She was perhaps 8 Earth years old. Her name was Lee Myra. She had bright eyes and messy hair, and she was holding a piece of paper. "Hello," she said to the 8-foot warrior covered in battle scars. "Are you here to help us?" Was so surprised he did not immediately respond. Where were the soldiers? Where were the weapons? Why was this tiny creature standing before him with no fear in her eyes? "I am here to assess your situation," he said carefully. His universal translator made the words sound harsh. "Good," Myra said. She held up the paper. "I made this for you. It is a picture. My mom says warriors get tired and sad sometimes, so I thought maybe a picture would make you feel better." Took the paper. His massive clawed hands made it look like a leaf. He looked at it. It was a drawing of a warrior. The proportions were wrong. The colors were strange. A child's work, clearly. But the warrior in the picture was smiling. And around the warrior were flowers and stars and small stick figures that might have been humans. At the bottom, in clumsy letters, were the words, "Thank you for helping us." Stared at the picture for a long time. "You made this," he said, "for me, before you even knew if I would help you." "My mom says you should always try to make friends," Myra explained. "Even with people who seem scary, because sometimes scary people are just lonely." The battle lord of the Third Fleet, who had killed more enemies than he could count, who had never retreated from a single battle in his entire life, felt something strange happen in his chest. It hurt, but it was not a bad hurt. "Your ship will be repaired," he heard himself say. "My engineers will assist you. You will reach your destination safely." Myra smiled. It was a smile that held no fear, no calculation, no hidden meaning. It was pure and honest and simple. "I knew you were nice," she said. "I could tell." Later, in his private quarters, sat alone and looked at the drawing. He thought about the human mechanic and the princess. He thought about what he had been taught his entire life. Emotion was weakness. Vulnerability was defeat. But this small child had walked up to him with nothing but a piece of paper and a smile, and she had defeated him more completely than any army ever had. Perhaps, he thought, they had been wrong about many things. Back on Earth, the story of it had become famous. News programs talked about it. Scientists studied it. Politicians debated what it meant for human diplomacy. Hated all of it. He had returned home expecting to go back to his quiet life. Instead, he found reporters waiting at the spaceport. His face was on screens everywhere. People stopped him on the street to shake his hand and thank him. "I did not do anything," he kept telling them. "I just said something stupid. The princess did all the real work." But no one listened. They wanted a hero, and they had decided he was one. The government assigned him a new role: Special Ambassador for Cultural Exchange. His job was to meet with alien diplomats and help them understand humanity. "I am a mechanic," he protested to Admiral. "I fix engines. I do not know anything about diplomacy." The Admiral smiled. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "That is exactly why you are perfect for this job," she said. "The old diplomats talked too much and said too little. You talk too little and say too much. The galaxy needs more honesty and less politics." So became an ambassador. He met with thee and confused them even more. He visited thee and found, to his shock, that Battlelord wanted to discuss human art. He traveled to worlds he had never heard of and spoke to species he had never imagined. And everywhere he went, he told the truth. "I do not understand your customs," he would say, "but I want to learn, and I will tell you about mine honestly, even the parts that are embarrassing." It worked better than any strategy. Species that had refused to talk to human diplomats for decades opened their doors to him. Why? Because he never lied. He never played games. He just said what he felt and waited to see what happened. 1 year passed, then 2, traveled to 30 different worlds. He made friends he never expected and saw wonders he never dreamed of. But something was missing. He thought about often. The way she smiled when she finally understood a human joke. The way her eyes lit up when she heard music that moved her. The way her hand had felt on his, cool and soft and careful. They had exchanged messages, but it was not the same. She was busy with her duties. He was busy with his. The distance between them grew longer with each passing month. Then on a quiet evening received a message. It was short, just one line. "I am coming to Earth. I need to see you." His heart stopped. Then it started again, faster than before. Princess was coming. After 2 years, she was coming to find him. He did not know what it meant. He did not know what would happen. But for the first time since he left that chamber where the council voted, he felt that spark of hope again. Tomorrow, everything might change. But tonight, he sat on his small balcony and looked at the stars and smiled. Some things he had learned were worth waiting for. Arrived on Earth on a gray morning in late autumn. She had chosen to come alone, without guards or servants or political assistants. For the first time in 200 years, she was traveling as just herself. Not a princess, not a representative, just. It was terrifying, it was wonderful. Earth was nothing like she expected. The planet was messy and chaotic, full of contradictions. The cities were crowded and loud. The weather changed without warning. People walked too fast and talked too loud and laughed at things she did not understand. She loved it. She had sent a message to, but she did not wait for a response. She knew where he was. She had always known. For 2 years she had tracked his movements, read his reports, watched his interviews. Not because she was supposed to, but because she could not stop herself. The repair shop inn was small. It sat on a quiet street between a restaurant and a flower cellar. The sign above the door was faded. The windows were dirty. It was the opposite of everything. Stood outside for a long moment. Her heart was beating too fast. Her hands were shaking. These were signs of weakness, signs of emotion she should control. She did not try to control them, not anymore. She opened the door and walked inside. The shop was cluttered with machine parts and tools and half-finished projects. The air smelled of oil and metal. Music played from a small speaker, something soft and human and sad. And there in the middle of it all was Park. He was bent over an engine, his hands black with grease. He was singing along to the music in a voice that was not good but was very sincere. He had not heard her come in. Watched him for a moment. This was the man who had changed everything. This simple, awkward, honest man who fixed machines and said what he felt and had somehow, impossibly, found his way into her heart. She cleared her throat. Looked up, his eyes went wide. The wrench in his hand fell to the floor with a clatter. He breathed. She smiled. It still felt strange on her face, smiling, but it was getting easier. You look surprised. You came. He stood up slowly as if he was afraid she might disappear. I got your message, but I did not think. I mean, you are a princess. You have duties, important things to do. Why would you? Why would I travel across the galaxy to see a mechanic in a small repair shop? She walked closer. I have been asking myself that question for 2 years. Did you find an answer? Yes. She stopped in front of him. They were close enough to touch now. You told me once that humans love even knowing it might destroy them, because the chance of something beautiful is worth the risk of something terrible. Nodded, his eyes never left hers. I am 237 years old, said. In all that time, I have never taken a risk. I have never done anything without calculating the odds and preparing for every outcome. I have lived a perfect, safe, empty life. Let me finish. She took a breath. When you said those words to me in the council chamber, when you told me I was so lovely you could not speak, something broke inside me, or maybe something fixed itself. I am not sure which. She reached out and took his hands. The grease did not bother her. Nothing bothered her. I came here because I needed to know if what I felt was real. What do you feel? I feel like the star in that poem, the one that loved the planet. I feel like I might burn everything around me if I let myself feel what I want to feel. Her voice shook. But I also feel like not feeling it might be worse. Squeezed her hands. His eyes were bright with something she recognized. She had seen it in her own reflection lately. Hope and fear and wonder all mixed together. I have thought about you every day, he said quietly. I tried not to. I told myself you were a princess and I was nobody. I told myself it was impossible. I told myself to forget. He laughed softly. My brain is very bad at listening to itself. Is that a human thing? Very much yes. They stood there in the small, cluttered shop, holding hands and looking at each other. Outside, the city moved on without them. People walked past the window. Cars drove by. The world continued as it always had. But inside that shop, something new was beginning. What happens now? Asked. I do not know, admitted. I have never done this before, any of it. Neither have I. We will probably make mistakes. Many mistakes. People will talk. Your people, my people, everyone in between. Smiled, let them talk. She pulled him closer. He came willingly, his eyes wide and wondering. And then, in a small repair shop on a gray autumn morning, the alien princess kissed the human mechanic. It was not a perfect kiss. They were both nervous. Their heights were different. They bumped noses, made a surprised sound that was almost a squeak. But it was honest. It was real. And that made it more beautiful than anything either of them had ever experienced. When they finally pulled apart, was grinning like an idiot, was laughing in a way she had not laughed since childhood. Your face is covered in grease now, he said. She touched her cheek and looked at the black smudge on her silver fingers. Good, it suits me. They spent the rest of the day together, showed her around. They ate food from street vendors. They watched the sea from the harbor. They talked about everything and nothing. And as the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in colors that even the Empire could not match, leaned her head on shoulder and said something she had never said to anyone. "I love you," was quiet for a moment. Then he turned to her with eyes full of warmth and wonder and that same painful honesty that had started everything. "I loved you from the first moment I saw you," he said. "I just did not have the words to say it properly. You found words eventually. The wrong words, stupid words. The perfect words." She kissed him again, softer this time. "They were the most perfect words anyone has ever said to me." News of the princess and the human mechanic spread across the galaxy. Some people were happy, some were angry, some were confused, but everyone was watching. Because if a princess could love a mechanic, if an empire built on cold logic could learn to feel, then maybe everything was possible. Maybe the universe was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. Humans called it hope, called it madness. They had no word for it at all. But whatever it was called, it was spreading. One honest word at a time, one brave heart at a time, one small step toward something beautiful at a time. And at the center of it all, in a small repair shop a princess who had forgotten how to feel was learning to love. And a mechanic who had never believed he mattered was discovering he had changed the galaxy. Not with weapons, not with strategy, not with power or wealth or political skill. Just with the simple, dangerous, wonderful truth. "You are so lovely I cannot speak." Some words, it turned out, could change everything.